Yeah. So we're here. 20th episode. And I'm sitting here going, what do I talk about? What book do I bring to the table this week for my 20th episode? It's kind of a big deal. I'm not really sure. I've had thoughts. I've been poring over my books for about the past hour, just kind of going, what do I do? Should I go with something nice and something simple? Should I go with something humorous? It's been a difficult choice to make. And sadly, because of the choice I have made, I will not be doing a reading at the end of this episode like I normally do. For those of you that are interested in that sort of thing, I do apologize. But there's only one thing to do. Go big or go home. So I'll see you in a minute. Hello, and welcome to Chapter 20 of Book 1 of You Should Be Reading. This week, we're tackling a big one. That's right, an entire series of books. 21 in total. And they're still out there. You can still find them in paperback. You can find the old versions. There's newer versions out. You can pick it up on Kindle from probably pretty much anywhere online or any local bookstore, your Barnes and Nobles, your Chapters. They've probably got them available. What am I talking about? Well, it is a sci-fi epic of massive scope. And it exists because of one man. Well, because one man wanted to do something, it exists. That man was Karl Masek. Now, to those of you who know the name, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Robotech series. Now, the Robotech series was based off of the anime of the same name. The anime itself was based off of 3 separate anime series from Japan that they took the footage, created their own story, and adapted it to what was shown on the screen. A rather big, ambitious project for back in those days. I remember I used to watch it as a kid on Saturday morning cartoons. It popped up quite a bit there. Now, the anime series that it's based off of only comprises 12 of the books. That's right. We have here. Now I've got these two, which are actually the omnibus editions of books 1, 2, and 3, and book 4, 5, and 6 of the first generation. As you can see, they're a little bit down here, especially down here. They're a little bit well-worn books. I've read through these multiple times, and I love them. Now, these 3 books are the first generation. They involve what is known as the Superdimensional Fortress, or SDF-1, as it gets christened by the human race. Basically, in Book 1, a global civil war was about to basically cause all of humanity to destroy itself. It was right on the verge. When this giant fortress crash lands in this small little island of Macross. Those of you who are really into anime will know that name, yes, but I'm not going to get into that. Anyways, crash lands on the small island of Macross, just off of Japan, and the world basically was like, what the hell was that? We better check this out. So they send some people in, find out it's this massive fortress with technology so far above what humans had. And over the course of the next 10, I think it's 10 years, something like that, they rebuild it and fashion it into their own and make use of this technology. And war pretty much stops because at that point they're like going, this is like advanced technology from outer space. There's aliens out there. We better stop fighting ourselves and start preparing for the aliens that are coming because they're probably going to come. So that this happens, and interesting things begin to crop up here and there. As it happens in the first book, the aliens do come looking for it. The humans in their fortress end up doing a space jump, while still in the atmosphere of the planet, and end up taking the whole island with them, along with the civilization that was in that little city that built up around the fortress. Now, because the bunkers they had there for shelter were airtight, the people managed to survive. So they had them all brought into the city and end up building this city inside the belly of this giant fortress, which could transform. Yes, a giant transforming fortress with planes that transform into 3 different particular variations and whatnot. That's a big thing of Robotech. It's kind of what it's known for. And after that, things move on. There is I got the omnibus edition of this as well. 789, the second generation, where you can see a still image here. The main character, Dana Sterling. She's the daughter of 2 people from the first generation. It moves on like that. Interesting things happen here because this is still on Earth, still with the people involved and whatnot. Only now the what's called the Masters have arrived on Earth. Other aliens, the ones that directed the aliens from the first one, the first generation aliens, the Zentradi, were about 60-foot tall aliens. They were giants. Didn't really have a concept of certain human emotions. It kind of caused them a bit of physical discomfort to actually view human emotions like love and whatnot. Any of you who've heard the anime, one of the laws of anime that are out there, that love conquers all, that's kind of where it came from. Anyways, this happens. The Robotech Masters show up. Then other things happen, because then the third generation happens. The third generation deals with, I've got the 3 books of them, and the third generation is all about the Invid, another alien race that these Zentradi and the Robotech Masters failed to destroy or conquer Earth. The Invid did. And basically, one of the particular, where is it here? Yes, Space Weary Veterans, the expeditionary force to retake the planet. They were from a force that were sent out from the first generation. And they come back to Earth to find it conquered over, and one of them ends up teaming up with people on Earth that are the slaves of the Invid to retake the Earth. So that's 12 books there. They deal with a large span of time, multiple aliens, invasions, Earth, all this good stuff. But then there's other things. Then there's this book. This book is book 19. Now you're thinking, well, you just covered 12 books. Now you're on book 19. What happened to the other 5 that was between that? I'll get to those in a minute. Because 19 happens directly after the first generation in terms of the timeline. And this deals with the Zentradi rebellion, when the Zentradi and humans are kind of living together on Earth. There's these malcontents that don't like the way things are going. There's big uprising, all kinds of all kinds of fun political, social commentary going on in this. And it deals with the characters from the first generation, who are now admirals, I think. Yeah, I think admirals. I think they're admirals now. So yes, a couple of them anyways. It's pretty interesting. So that happens, and then we deal with those other 5 books that happen in between here, because this is the Lost Generation. Then you have oh my God! Look at all these books. 5 more books. The Sentinels series. The Sentinel series deal with what this book, the Zentradi Rebellion, starts to build up to. In this book, they're kind of working on building what is called the SDF-3, which is supposed to be sending out. It's supposed to be a force that goes out looking for the people behind the Zentradi to try and peace talks and, try and settle things down. These 5 books are the expeditionary force that the 3rd generation comes from. The Invid chronologically first get run into here, as well as a half dozen other alien races. There's crystalline beings. There's a fox-like race that breathe hallucinogens or their own particular hallucinogenic atmosphere. You can see the Invid on here squaring off against one of the Zentradi. They're both quite big, and he's like a slug-type creature. There's all kinds of interesting things. And that's not even the best part, because there's also these 2 books right here, The Master's Gambit and Before the Invid Storm. This book takes place before the 7, 8, 9 books of the 2nd generation, and this one takes place directly after. This one deals with the Robotech Masters' first arrival and some other things that they do, running into Dana Sterling, I believe, and some other things. And this one deals with the Second Robotech War, which happens here, ending, and the Masters were defeated. Everything is in trouble, and Dana Sterling wants to hijack a spaceship and go after her parents, which left in the Sentinel series. And that's books 19, 20, and 21, The Lost Generation, which are put in there. There's still another book that I haven't mentioned. Book 18, The End of the Circle, the last chronological book that you should read, which deals with all 3 generations, and the Sentinels, and the stuff that happens in the Lost Generation. It all comes together into this final book, where all the answers, everything is brought to a close, the end of the circle, hence the name. And these are all written by Jack McKinney. And Jack McKinney is an author who hasn't written a lot of books that I could find. He's got another one, The Black Hole Travel Agency. I'm going to be looking into it and seeing what that one's about. But Jack McKinney is actually a collaboration. It is the pseudonym of 2 authors. I believe it is 2 authors. I will double check, because it actually has it written down somewhere in one of these books. I don't know if I can find it, but it's at least 2 people, possibly 3, that collaborated to write these books. And any of you who've seen the anime will know, and for those of you who haven't seen the anime, I will tell you, the 1st generation, the 2nd generation, and the 3rd generation, the books are almost a complete transcript of the anime. Everything that happens in the books happens in the anime. The only difference is the books add a little bit more depth into what the characters are thinking at that point in time. Adds a little bit more description, because anime naturally is a very visual medium. Books is not. It relies more on the imagination. So there's a lot more description. But if you've ever wondered about anime, and you don't know if you'd like it, you don't know if it even remotely applies to you, I would recommend picking up the 1st generation, or just the 1st book, and just reading it, seeing if you like it. If you like the sort of tone, if you like the humor and whatnot, it would be a good thing. Another thing of note is that in pretty much all the books, at the beginning of a chapter, Mr. McKinney has. So where, I'm going to find it, of course, in a minute. There it is. Chapter 1. Now, I don't know if you can see it here, but close enough, I suppose. Okay. There we are. Chapter 1. Now, this is the actual first part of the chapter. Up here, it begins every chapter with a little snippet, a quote from one of the characters in the book, a couple paragraphs of a book that somebody in these books has written, this or that technical manual talking about something like that. Just little snippets of information, just little information dumps at the beginning of each chapter. Some of them are completely inconsequential. Some of them matter to what's going to happen in that chapter. It doesn't matter. It matters in that point of thing. Listen to me. I'll be all right. I just get really excited about Robotech. This is one of the biggest series of books that I had ever tackled. I read this in high school several times in my high school years. I had to literally make a phone call and send a check to get these 5 books because the Sentinels, I couldn't find them in my local bookstore. I had to order them from a bookstore in another city, in a bigger city than where I was living. I grew up in a very small town. And it's an amazing series. It's kind of science fiction soap opera, space operas, if you've ever read any of those type things, because it's massive array of characters. Some of them are connected to each other intimately because of what happens in earlier books. Some of them only get connected in the book that they're in. Some of them aren't even connected. Simply amazing. I would highly recommend all of them. But 21 books is a bit much. So, what I suggest you do, because I'm pretty sure they still sell these. These are the 3 books in 1, omnibus editions. You can probably find this. When I bought it, it was... Where's the... There it is. Yes. When I bought it, it was about $7. It probably costs about $10 now to get something of this size. But yes, pick it up. Check out the first book, the first 3 books, if you want to read the whole thing. See what you think. Because Robotech is an amazing sci-fi series. It deals with not only social and political things, it deals with the harsh realities of war in a very real sense. The characters are very believable, very enjoyable, and sometimes they will piss you off. And I don't say that lightly. There have been times in this, especially in the first generation, with one of the main characters, Rick Hunter. He makes bad decisions back in those early days of his. And there have been times when I have read that book and I've been just like, I know what's going to happen, but I simply am like, Rick, no, what are you doing? You idiot. You have somebody that cares for you. What are you doing, Rick? Stop it. I get into the books. I get into a lot of books. So yes. And in case you're wondering, I'll give you just a bit of a hint. We'll pile all these up. Oh, there we go. I know. In case you're wondering what 21 books looks like this. This is a lot of books. Robotech by Jack McKinney. This week, you should be reading Robotech by Jack McKinney. So until next time, remember, read more books.